This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
It's a tale of two cities. It's the tale of Boston and Cleveland. When it comes to the Eastern Conference Finals, I can give you one metric, one statistic that explains everything that's going on. All the confusion, all the up and down, all the home and away, all the Jekyll and Hyde. Who are these two teams? How do we see so many blowouts? I'm going to give you one stat that tells the tale of these two cities. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and in live moving pictures on ESPN News. Give me a call, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Here's the deal. We're going to do it. You know I'm going to do it. We're going to talk about it because that's what we do. We have the real conversation. And forgive my lack of humility, we have the conversation that I believe so few, not just in sports media, but in media in general, are willing to have. The one of disagreement, the one of strong points of view, the one with you and me. We're going to talk about the NFL's new Anthem policy. We're going to talk about this divide in this country. And we're going to do it together. 888-729-3776. But first, we're going to talk about sports. Because I'll be damned, it's still the one reason we're all here together. It's still the one thing that brings us together. It's still the unifying factor. For me, at least. And I think for you as well. Because I love basketball. You love basketball. And we know at this point, I know basketball. So what are we going to do? Let's talk basketball for a second. I was right again. The Celtics won Game 5, as I predicted. We're on pace. Thank you, Nuno, for the round of applause. The Celtics are on pace to win the series in 7 games. It is an absolute tale of two cities. How is it two teams could be so different? Home and away. How is it the Celtics are just giant killers in Boston and babies in Cleveland? How is it that J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver and George Hill are absolute assassins at Cleveland, and in Boston, I couldn't hit them with a cane? I mean, you give me a long cane, a narrow hallway, and bright lights, and I couldn't find them. I couldn't find J.R. Smith. I can't find Kyle Korver. I can't find the Cleveland Cavaliers in Boston.
I don't think Ty Lue could find Kyle Korver on the bench last night either. 19 minutes? What are we doing?
Well, maybe he knew this, Rudy. I've got one statistic for you. I've got one stat that'll tell you the tale of what's going on. And it resides on the Cleveland Cavaliers side of the box score. I asked for home and away splits on field goal percentage, turnovers, and three-point percentage for both teams. And I wanted to see what stood out. What is it that's so different from one arena to the next? And here it is. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers' ability to shoot a three. It's drastically different. I mean, drastically different. Home and away. Game 1 in Boston, the Cavs shot 19% from three. They lost big. Game 2 in Boston, the Cavs shot 25% from three. They lost big. Both of those stats, minus LeBron James. These are stats of every Cleveland Cavalier not named LeBron James. Now look what happened. Okay, they're in Boston. They shoot the three like crap. They lose big. Now, let's take a flight to Cleveland. Let's see what happens. Game 3. Cavs shoot 45% from three and win. Game 4. Cavs shoot 37% from three and win. Let's catch that return-bound flight back to Boston. Last night, the Cavs shoot 28% from three and lose again. Right now, the one glaring stat, the one that sticks out, turnovers, field goal percentage, whatever it may be, the one that sticks out that you can point to as a correlation, because we got to be honest, when we're doing these stats, it's often correlation. It's not direct causation, meaning I'm looking for the stat that follows the result. We know who's getting blown out, where, and when. So what is it that's jumping off the stat sheet? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's the Cavs' ability to shoot the three when they're not in Cleveland. Good news for Cavs fans. They go back to Cleveland. We'll find out. Does J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, George Hill, do they return? And while we're at it, one last question, and we're going to spend some more time on this today. What is up with our man LeBron? These stats accepted LeBron. They did not include LeBron's performances. But what is up with LeBron? It doesn't take any LeBron James doubter or LeBron James hater to look out and see, that dude looks different. He looks tired. Ty Lue was asked about it.
Did LeBron look tired to you? And especially, did you think he looked tired at all tonight?
He looked a little tired to me, yes.
That's his coach, Ty Lue. So, LeBron, what's up, man? Were you tired?
I have my moments, but I think everybody at this point is tired or, worn down or whatever the case may be. But still trying to make plays to help our team win, put us in position to win. And we had moments, we had an opportunity, but we didn't make enough plays.
Something's up. I don't know what it is. Okay? I don't have an MD. I don't have a PhD in psychology. Something's up. Hands on his knees, shorts pulling, towel over your face, defeated eyes looking, tired. I don't know if LeBron James is sick. I don't know if he's got his Michael Jordan flu game, but it turned out differently for him. I don't know what's going on. I'm telling you this. This is undebatable. That wasn't normal. That wasn't right. That wasn't energetic LeBron James. That's my opening take, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keeping cars running newer, longer. Whatever you drive a Firestone. Here we go. The NFL owners adopted a new policy regarding its employees, its players, and the national anthem. The new policy is as such. Players and team personnel shall stand and show respect for the flag and the anthem if they are on the field during the performance. Players, however, have the option of staying in the locker room during the anthem if they don't feel that's within the way they feel at that particular subject or that moment, in the words of Pittsburgh Steelers owner Art Rooney. You don't have to be on the field. You can stay in the locker room. But if you come on the field, you need to stand for the anthem. You need to show respect. The NFL has attempted to strike a compromise. The NFL has attempted to give its players an out, to not mandate action for its players. The NFL has attempted to adopt a rule that is not, by any means, the strictest in professional sports. And the NFL has attempted to appease its fan base. You and I both know one of the strongest voices, either reflecting the fan base or capitalizing on the fan base, is the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He was asked on Fox and Friends how he felt about the NFL's new rule. I'm going to play that for you. You can hear the president, what he thinks about the NFL's new rule. You can hear Steve Kerr. You can hear Doug Baldwin. You can hear Trey Wingo. You can hear every voice that's out there right now and how they feel about it. And you will also hear, I make this promise to you, the one that I can point to that disagrees. He's the guy that's going to hang out with you for the next 3 hours. It's me. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Take a stand. You say that you have to stand for the national anthem or you don't.
We made modifications to our anthem policy,
putting the focus back on the game.
I think we learned from each other.
I think throughout this process, all of us have grown much closer to our players.
Colin Kaepernick's protest never once got in the way of a football game being played.
This was A, unanimous, and B, the league went to great pains to show that unanimity by having 4 different owners come out with Ron Trudell and speak to the process of getting to this moment.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Give me a call, 888-729-3776. The NFL just can't win. I mean, man, everybody's really good at complaining. Everybody's really good at saying, you got it wrong again, NFL, you bunch of billionaire idiots. You should listen to me. I saved a bunch of money last month. Stupid billionaires. See, my cell phone contract, I switched. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts, by the way. Everybody's got advice for billionaires on how to run their business. No idea how these morons got where they are in life, but they decided to change their national anthem policy where they said, if you play for me, if you work for me, you don't have to go out on the field for the national anthem. You can stay in the locker room. I'm not going to force you to stand for the anthem. I'm not going to force you to stand before the American flag. I'm not going to force you to feel the same way I do about the United States of America. But if you come out on the field where the ceremony is taking place and you're on my dollar, you're on my dime, you will stand. And I will be damned. Everybody hates the NFL today. First, on Fox and Friends this morning, they asked the President of the United States, what does he think of the new policy?
Well, I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still, I think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. And the NFL owners did the right thing if that's what they've done.
If that is the story, do you feel like you pushed this story forward and you pushed this to a conclusion?
I think the people pushed it forward. This was not me. I brought it out. I think the people pushed it forward. This country is very smart. We have very smart people. And, you know, that's something ideally could have been taken care of when it first started. It would have been a lot easier. But if they did that, they're doing the right thing.
The President of the United States, to, I think, the disappointment of a lot of people here, got it 100% right. The bottom line is this isn't an issue for the President of the United States. It's not his championship. It's not his cause. You may want it to be that way because it's easier to villainize. Because you don't like him, you didn't vote for him, you didn't support him. Guess what? I check a lot of those boxes myself. But you know what? He got it 100% right because this is an issue for the customer base of the NFL. The NFL's customers were upset about the fact that they were watching an entertainment product where people knelt before a symbol they felt very dearly about. And guess what happens when your customers are unhappy with your product? They feel less inclined to give you their dollars. It's bananas, I know. It's really, really mind-blowing, but a business might, just might, be interested in business. A business might be interested in appealing to its customer base. And yet, here's the NFL trying to strike a compromise. The NFL is not requiring players to stand for the national anthem. It's requiring players that if they come out on the field, they have to stand for the national anthem. You don't have to share my point of view, but you don't get to offend our customers. It's a very simple message. I respect many people in this debate, many people that disagree with me. I can name them for you. I can name several of them. Stephen A.Smith, Max Kellerman, Chris Long of the Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Baldwin of the Seattle Seahawks. I disagree with Doug Baldwin on many things. I agree with him on some. This is an example I feel like I have strong disagreement with Doug Baldwin. He's missed the boat. Listen.
To me, this just further punctuates the tone deafness or the disconnect between the NFL and its players. The NFL just doesn't get it. It's more of a PR move to me than anything. It's not really trying to get to the gist of it. I don't really think they ever did care about the initiatives or the things that the players cared about. It's, again, about their bottom line.
That's Doug Baldwin on 710 AM Seattle. With all due respect to Doug, and again, it's sincere. I don't care if Doug Baldwin respects me. I don't care if Doug Baldwin likes me. I don't care if he agrees with me. It's not going to dictate whether or not I respect his opinion. It's how I roll. It's how we do it on the Will Cain Show. No agreement required when you enter these doors. But he got it all the way wrong. What I feel like is the NFL players have lost touch with and are out of touch with their customer base. Because if you find this rule, if you find the NFL today somehow putting you in an aggrieved situation as the NFL player, if you feel like the NFL is coming down heavy-handed, or how about this? This is my favorite argument, that I or the NFL just don't get it. I want you to think about the messages being sent to customers out there, to fans, to NFL ticket buyers, to jersey buyers, to ratings points. I want you to think about the message, because here it is. You ready? Here's the message. I have a right to protest the national anthem and the flag wherever it's being played, and especially when I'm being paid to be there. You make millions of dollars to be there. No one is requiring you to be out there for the flag. So if you walk out of the locker room and come onto the field and kneel, you're telling your employer and by proxy your customers, big middle finger to you. How is this business? How does this make sense? What business operates this way? I don't get to do it. I don't get to wear a political t-shirt. I don't get to wear a hat. You don't. What's your place of employment? Do you preach to everybody that walks by you? Do you share with them your morality? You share with them your politics? How does your employer feel about it? It's just business. And it's business 101. How does Steve Kerr? Steve Kerr, by all accounts, is brilliant. Brilliant as a basketball coach, and in most corners of the sports world, lauded as a brilliant man. Tell me how Steve Kerr can be so obtuse on this.
I think it's just typical of the NFL. They're just playing to their fan base, and they're just...
Okay, hold on. Steve Kerr's first indictment is, that's typical of the NFL. They're just appealing to their fan base, and that's idiotic. Stupid Apple designing these phones for their fan bases. Idiotic. How dare Marvel make a movie that fans might want to go to? Stupid. How stupid of the NFL to appeal to its fan base. Keep going, Steve.
I think it's just typical of the NFL. They're just playing to their fan base, and they're just basically trying to use the anthem as fake patriotism, nationalism, scaring people. It's idiotic, but that's how the NFL has handled their business. And I'm proud to be in a league that understands patriotism in America is about free speech, about peacefully protesting.
Every business tries to appeal to its fan base. Every business controls the speech of its employees so that it doesn't offend its customers. ESPN doesn't want me talking politics, nor anybody else around here. Safeway doesn't want the checkout clerk counter wearing the MAGA hat. Apple might. I'm not sure about Apple. Let me reset on that one. Chase doesn't want the bank teller telling you how they voted as they give you change. And I got one more for you before I go to break, Bubba. Don't get mad at me because I got one more. The NBA doesn't want its players offending its customer base. Hey, Steve, you got criticism for the NFL? You live in a glass house because the NBA's rule is this. Players, coaches, and trainers are to stand and line up in a dignified posture along the sidelines or on the foul line during the playing of the national anthem. Your league requires it. Your league mandates it. Your league doesn't give them an option of staying in the locker room. Your league is the one that says you must share my point of view. You must share my symbolism. Your glass house, Steve, is much, much shakier than the NFL's. So how big is that rock in your hand? You might drop it. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Andrew Luck hasn't thrown a football in 1.5 years. He still hasn't. Up to today. What's going on? Going to ask Bill Polian next in studio on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing My Blue. My Blue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With My Blue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. There's a range of flavors to choose from, and it takes just 20 minutes to charge. For a limited time, Blue is letting you try their new My Blue starter kit for just $1. But hurry, this won't last long. Terms and conditions apply. Go to myblue.com today to learn more.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. It's been a while, but we got Hall of Famer Bill Polian back in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Glad to have you back, Bill.
Good to be back.
You ready to give it to me?
Sure.
Just like old times?
Always.
Let's start with where I left off. Let's start with the anthem. You walked in, and I was curious right away where you were on it. The NFL's new anthem policy says players can stay in the locker room if they want. No requirement to come out, but if you come out, stand up, pay attention, stand for the national anthem. What do you think?
I think because of the toxic nature of our politics today, which is the harshest we've ever been, the lowest we've ever been in my memory, and I'll be 76 years old in December. There was a necessity for a policy, and the policy had to take into account that both sides in this argument are in fact right. The people who support the anthem and the flag and regard that as a salute to our veterans are correct, and the players who want to better their communities and give notice about what's going on in their communities are also correct. So both sides have laudable objectives. The toxicity of the politics has gotten in between and caused a problem. So the NFL had to have a policy. The policy covers both bases. Commissioner Tagliabue said many years ago that if you have a deal that neither side is terribly happy about, you probably have a good deal. I think he was right then, and I think Commissioner Goodell and the owners are right now.
That's an interesting, and I want to get to football with you in just a moment, talking to Bill Polian here, Hall of Famer. That's an interesting look. I spent some time in politics before I came over here to do sports, and compromise is a virtue that sometimes I think becomes a virtue in and of itself. The idea of compromise, people think, is a virtue. It's really what you're compromising on. What I'm curious if this one works, if Paul Tagliabue would have been right on this, if this threading of the needle that you just described is, if we're in the middle of the NFL season, will this policy have made the toxicity go down? And I don't know the answer to that yet, Bill.
I believe the answer to that is yes, because the toxicity is caused by politicians. So when some politician decides to use the NFL as a whipping boy for his whatever his or her particular grievance is, then the commissioner, the owners, the coaches, the players can say, we have a policy, we made the policy, and we're abiding by the policy. And if you stop and think about it, players who do not come out are going to be asked about why they didn't come out after the game.
Absolutely.
So they're going to have a forum to state their views. Players who want to be part of the anthem will come out, and they, by their very presence, will indicate that they're okay with it. I think the Eagles and what they've done under the leadership of Malcolm Jenkins and a great owner in Mr. Lurie and a great coach and general manager are doing vis-a-vis the visit to the White House is exactly where I hope we will be. Malcolm Jenkins says, if you want to go to the White House, terrific. If you don't want to go to the White House, we're all going to Washington as a team, and those that don't want to go to the White House are going to go in the community and do something positive for the community. That's what we should be doing. John Meacham wrote a great book called The Soul of America. I commend it to everyone. In it, he talks about Lincoln in his first inaugural on the eve of the Civil War, appealing to the better angels of our nature. It's about time that we had a policy that helps appeal to the better angels of our nature. My fervent hope is that this will do it.
Talking to Hall of Famer Bill Polian here on the Will Cain Show. Let's talk football. It's been 1.5 years since Andrew Luck has apparently thrown. He's not throwing now, is what the reports are. Tell me what you know. And honestly, Bill, how big a deal is this?
I don't think it's a big deal now. He's making progress. Everyone that I've talked to, including the head coach, has indicated that he's making progress, that he's on schedule. The docs feel good about it. I'd remind everybody that he doesn't have to play this coming Sunday. In fact, he doesn't have to play until September. So he's got a lot of time to get ready, and they're positive, and there's no reason to believe otherwise. The issue, I think, is not whether or not his arm will function well. I think that will be the case. He's going to have to now, after almost 2 years away, get past the trepidation that every athlete has when they come back from an injury. There's a certain amount of psychological trepidation that you have. Say, oh, is this going to work the way I think it is? Can I absorb a hit? All of that stuff, you hope he has the opportunity to get out during the preseason, but still, preseason's not like the regular season. So I would expect him to get off to a little bit of a slow start. But once he gets his feet back under him and gets his confidence back, my belief is he'll be the same old Andrew.
Describe for me what you think the next year will look like for Dez Bryant.
Well, I hope he gets a job. He's going to have to lower his sights financially, that's for sure. And he's probably going to have to lower his expectations in terms of number of touches and things of that nature, maybe even his place in the lineup, because he's not the player he was even 3 or 4 years ago. So
obviously, Dez thinks of himself as a wide receiver one. Reports are he's interested in a 1-year contract, so he can get that perception that he holds about himself more widely held. But so when you say he might have to lower it, what are you saying? Like, what is Dez? A wide receiver 2, 3? What is he? Is what kind of financial? What do you?
2.5 at this point.
What 2.5? What?
2.5 receiver.
Oh,
he's
I wasn't sure if you were talking about millions.
He's not a 2. He's not a 3. He's a 2.5. So whatever that would equate to.
2.5, 2.5 receiver.
At his level of experience, he's probably in his minimum would probably be in the 1 million range. So something higher than that, but not terribly high.
Wow, what a fall! What a difference a year or two makes. Amazing.
Father Time's undefeated.
We made modifications to our Anthem policy. We want people to be respectful, and we want people to stand.
If a player chooses to protest on the sideline, the NFL will find the player.
Making sure all personnel stand on the field.
I don't think this is going to help. If anything, it's going to make more players protest.
They weren't speaking against the rights of athletes. They weren't speaking against black folks. They weren't speaking against anything other than what affected their bottom line.
Here they go. Here we go. How dare there be one damn voice of dissent? How dare there be one person who disagrees? For now, it's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Shannon Sharp, Mike Freeman, Tim Kawakami, everybody pointing out to me on Twitter. Make sure you keep it to Twitter too, boys. Make sure you keep it to Twitter because that's the one place you're not going to have to face it. Pointing out to me that when Steve Kerr says this,
I think it's just typical of the NFL. They're just playing to their fan base, and they're just basically trying to use the anthem as fake patriotism, nationalism, scaring people. It's idiotic, but.
When Steve Kerr says that and fails to point out that the NBA's rule is that you must stand for the national anthem, you must be present on the court, that he lives in a glass house and he's chunking rocks, when Shannon Sharp or Tim Kawakami or anybody else wants to point out that the NBA's rule is collectively bargained, let me ask you a question. Were you easily distracted as a child? Are you susceptible to red herrings? Do you need to Google what a red herring is? Kerr's not making a union point. He's not making a collective bargaining point. He's accusing the NFL of appealing to its fan bases. Imagine that, a business caring about its fans. He's accusing them of appealing to their fan base and calling it idiotic and fake patriotism while the NBA requires it. What a joke. Todd from Texas, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, Will.
Yeah,
love
man.
the show.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So listen. This is my take on it. I think this situation just has a little bit, way too much emotion, whole lot of money involved, and way too many rights. Now, when I say way too many rights, that don't mean you take somebody else's rights. But I mean, when everybody has rights that clearly clash with everybody else's rights, you're going to get a situation like this. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I mean, you got these players who want to have freedom of speech. And then just like you said, what kind of business – you don't do stuff during the business. Your point is completely valid. But when the reason that your point is valid is because the business owners have rights too. But that's completely clashing with the people who are making who have the right to protest and the freedom of speech to protest.
But Todd, you're throwing, honestly, man, and I really do appreciate it. Don't pipe him down, Bubba. You're throwing the word right around too liberally, man. It's just not. It's not correct. Okay. You don't have a right to protest at your job. You don't have a right to protest whenever and wherever you want. This is simply a falsehood. It does not exist. You do not get to do whatever you want whenever you want. It's true you can hold whatever political point of view you want, but you don't get to just go around sharing it with everybody, especially when you're on your employer's dime. That's a right that does not exist, Todd.
Okay, I get that point, but everybody's so hung up on how their amendments are and the freedom of speech and the this and the that and the other. And okay, so maybe the line is blurry, but the fact still remains that if this is something that's peacefully done and somebody's taking part in it, if you don't take part in the problem is you get all these big name people who everybody wants to hear from. They're not going to listen to Joe the little guy like me. But if you got somebody who stands on that platform, who has a platform like that, and he speaks up, now all of a sudden they want to listen to him because he has the platform to do that.
Listen, Todd, I get it, man. And here's why everything gets so mixed up, and I appreciate this. Here's the real, man, I want to curse. Here's the real SOB of it all, man. I don't even disagree on the merits of a lot of these debates, like the underlying issues. Some of them I do, and I know if you disagree on any part, you're a racist. And I'm not saying you say that, Todd. If you disagree on any part of it, you're absolutely a KKK-wearing hooded member of our society. I understand where we are today, but here's the real SOB of it all is that I don't even disagree on all of it. But I do happen to get the fact that employers can say, hey, man, what you're doing while taking my money is offending my customers. Don't do it. Rick from Kentucky, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Will Bowling Balls Cain.
I
Thanks
remember
for taking
you,
my call.
Rick, my man.
I'd like to ask you a question.
All right.
I told you I was a fan. I listened to the show a lot. I'm trying to figure something out. When I listen to you, are you trying to? Am I listening to your opinion, or do you want to be right?
Do I want to be
because
liked?
I get the opinion.
Wait, so hold on, Rick. You're asking me if I'm being authentic or I want to be liked. Is that what you said, right?
No, I'm not. No, I'm asking
What'd you say?
Is it important for you to do this show every day and to be right? Or is it important for you to share your opinion with everybody?
Oh, I thought you said liked.
Right.
Well, we know that's not the answer, right? Being liked isn't high on my priority list. Well, I'm going to do both, Rick. I'm going to do both. I want to be right and share my opinion. They're one and the same.
Oh, no, it's not one and the same.
Yeah, today I'm sure are.
No, it's not. Will, because the bottom line is, man, you are a white guy with an opinion. Your opinion cannot be blanketed over everybody.
But
let me make a point to you.
You got to hurry, man, because I got about 30 seconds left, Rick.
You keep talking about the bottom line, the fan base. Quit cheating and say white people.
No.
Go ahead on and be courageous.
No.
And say white people.
No, because it's not courageous. It's incorrect, Rick. By the way, I really appreciate how much you listen to the show. I really, truly do, and I hope you keep calling in. I'm down to 10 seconds left. But it's not white people. It's incorrect. That's incorrect, Rick. And I'll explain why next on the Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast. This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Like, is there some kind of memo passed out that I didn't get? When you walk into sports media and you get your microphone, here you go. Here are the talking points. You're glad to believe X, Y, and Z. They forgot to give me mine. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Seems like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry out there got it. Everybody with a pen and a microphone got it. Everybody on the same team? Ready? Break. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit progressivecommercial.com. All right. You're not gonna. I'm at 10, man, and you're going to have a hard time pulling me down to an 8.
I see what I want.
No, man, I want to go to 12. I want to go to 12. I am pissed, man.
I can't
It's getting worse, Rudy. It's getting worse. Like, I
could tell.
Yeah.
This is so bad. I think I need to come in and simmer you down.
Yeah, you need like a fire hose or something. Right.
You're fired up right now.
I'm serious. I am, man. I'm not even joking. Anyway, Ryan Hollins in studio.
I see.
ESPN NBA analyst Ryan Hollins in studio. Here's the deal. You and I are going to do it too. We're going to do this. We're going to talk about the anthem. Let's put that off. By the way, I'm going to get to Rick's question in a minute and whether or not, when I start talking about fan bases, what did Rick say? Basically, Will, are you talking about white people? He's saying, okay, I've got it right here. Rick said this.
You keep talking about the bottom line, the fan base. Quit cheating and say white people.
No.
Go ahead on and be courageous.
Courageous, Mike.
Are you sweating?
Do I look like I'm sweating?
You look like you're sweating across your brow.
Come on.
You're sweating.
I never sweat in my life in this stuff. Man. Sooner or later, we're all going to have to face the fact I'm the LeBron of this stuff.
Oh.
It doesn't even.
Oh.
What do you want me to do? You want me to do some false humility?
I'm looking at sweat on your brow now.
I'm going to get to Rick here in just a moment, by the way. By the way.
Let's do it. Cause
we can't, because once we go there, we're not going to come back. So let's talk basketball. Let's do some basketball, then we'll go there. And I'm going to talk to Rick about my whiteness. I like Rick. Rick's one of my favorite callers. He says I have bowling balls, but he asked if I can set aside my whiteness too. So Rick's my man. You're welcome to call in anytime, Rick. Everybody is welcome to disagree with me on the Will Cain Show. Anybody who's got a little more backbone than a Twitter profile is always welcome on.
Rick's got you sweating.
The Will Cain Show.
I'm looking at it, brother.
Let's do basketball. All right, man. Let's do it. Let's do it, and then we'll move over. All right. Is LeBron tired?
You are hilarious. We're not talking about LeBron until you tell everybody what you told me earlier.
What'd I tell you?
About how right I was.
But honestly, I swear to God, you're going to think I'm doing this just to mess with you. I don't remember what I said you're right about.
About how important Steph Curry is and how unimportant Kevin Durant is.
No, I told you.
Just another score on the floor.
Okay, hold on. I'll do it for you, man. We were on the set. You and I were off to the side of Outside the Lines, and you came on my show the other day, and you said to me, Steph Curry is sacrificing more for the Golden State Warriors' success than Kevin Durant is. Because I am under the impression, and I contend they're both sacrificing, and they are both. But who's sacrificing more? We had Tom Haberstroh on yesterday. He broke it down by the numbers. Steph is a 40-point-a-game guy without KD. With KD, he's a 26-point-a-game guy. There's nobody in the NBA.
Me telling you that wasn't enough?
Sacrificing enough. And you told me first.
Why couldn't
Ryan Hollins, right
telling you that have been enough?
Is LeBron tired?
LeBron is smart. And LeBron is older than he has been. He's not the same young LeBron that just jumps from the foul line game after game, practices, parties all night, and then hangs out. I don't know if LeBron parties, but it sounded good to say it. So, yeah, he's older. So, tired, older, yeah, he had to pace himself. He never went into that game, brother, with the idea or the notion.
Ryan, hold on. It's not pacing yourself, though. You saw it. It was hands on his knees. It was towel on his face.
Well, you still got to play the game.
He looked different. Tell me he didn't look different.
It wasn't his best effort.
I'm not even talking about the effort. I'm talking about the body language.
No, he was tired. Going in already knowing that you're tired, you're not going to walk up a hill. And you already know Boston in that game, Game 5, if I'm correct, Game 5 is not going to give you – they're going to give you their best A1 effort. They're at home. They're fired up. It's somewhere in the middle of the series. They're a young team. It's not worth fighting that. Let Will Cain, like you, just get all your fire out. Then I'm going to tone it down, calm down, then I'm going to blast you, brother. And that's what LeBron did.
I got bad news for you. My fire's not out.
Yeah, that's what's still there.
Raging inside of me. Ryan Hollins here, ESPN NBA analyst on the Will Cain Show. We were also talking about this a little bit earlier. I said, just, man, how can the home and away be so different? How can the Cavs play one way in Cleveland and another way in Boston? And for that matter, same with the Celtics. How can they be so drastically different in Boston than they are in Cleveland?
We talked about a simple fix. I'm going to give you the simple fix, and I want you to remember this at home. And, Will, I want you even more to remember this. And, Cerutz, if he doesn't admit that he's going to remember this, remember he heard it from me. There's a case of age here, and that's the only answer. You're really old or you're really young. And when you're really young, it's hard to have the maturity to know the pace, time, and tempo on the road of how you win games. You have to know how to win on the road. And that's what the young Celtics are trying to figure out. And age, on the other hand, for Cleveland, which is a lot older, these are dads and uncles versus nephews and sons. They're a lot older, so it means that their bodies don't recover. You know, the 48 hours just isn't enough for that knee soreness, that lower back. You got to pace yourself. In 2012, when I played with the Celtics, Kevin Garnett was about 50, Paul was 60, and Ray Allen was somewhere in between that age-wise. So we would, I don't want to say you threw games, but we had to pace games out and then give our best effort. You know, you'd even see guys sitting in the third or fourth quarter, pacing those minutes so that we could give it all we had when we needed to give it. You live to fight again another day, Will. You understand that, do you?
So you got to Goldilocks it. Can't be too old, can't be too young as a team. Road trips you up either way.
And another huge reason, LeBron's missing a guy there. Who's he missing? That big little guy, the big shining star that he used to have. Who? You know what I'm talking about. Who's LeBron miss? Kyrie Irving, my man. So Kyrie Irving not there. Normally in that game, LeBron would have said, Kyrie, I'm not feeling it, dog. You take over, do your thing, make it happen, bring us home, pace my minutes, and I'm going to bring it in the fourth quarter, okay? LeBron doesn't have that luxury right now. J.R. Smith ain't creating. The young guys that they brought over, they didn't have enough time with the team, and they're not talented enough not to have enough time. These are ballers, so I hate when people saying that Rodney Hood, Clarkson, those are bad players. Those aren't bad players. They just haven't had the time to learn the LeBron system.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. We'll come back. You and I'll get into it. You can push back on me. I've been alone.
I don't know if I want to push. I feel bad for you right now, man. You're sweating. You're fired up. Your whiteness is in question on air, whatever that means.
Let me explain to you something, just so we get our terms straight. Before you and I get into this, I just want to set the groundwork here, okay?
Let's set it, brother.
I'm the Muhammad Ali of this stuff. I'm not LeBron. Ooh. I'm the greatest of all time. Ooh. I'm so pretty. Ooh. You'll never see me sweat, all right? I'm the float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You want to come debate me? You better be careful because I'm going to be knocking teeth. I'm going to walk out of here looking pretty. I'm going to come in pretty and go out pretty. And they're going to be yelling, he's the greatest, okay? Be ready.
You're sweating a little more.
Be ready.
As you said that.
That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. What's up, everyone? Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. Let's keep it going. It's the Will Cain Show, presented by Progressive Insurance. And remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. Still hanging out with ESPN NBA analyst Ryan Hollins here in studio. We promised we'd get to the anthem. We promised we'd get to some of the debate, conversation, heated nature, one might say, of the conversation around the NFL.
All those notes on your desk. Oh, my gosh.
This is a day full. You've had a day full. What were you on? You were on Get Up, then you were on Sports Center and OTL and Levitard.
Aaron Goldhammer, Cleveland Radio, where he wanted me to tell all of Cleveland how LeBron's going to L.A. Levitard, Spain Fitz, Golic, Levitard. It was like a combination.
You've been doing all. This is First Take. This is OTL. This is this show. This is a days full of notes. All right, listen, so before Ryan walked in, Rick, one of my guys from Kentucky here, called into the Will Cain Show, and he asked me this.
You keep talking about the bottom line, the fan base. Quit cheating and say white people.
No.
Go ahead on and be courageous.
It's not. All right, Ryan, I'm going to say this to Rick. I'm going to say this to you. Ryan, Rick's not here. You can respond for Rick if you want. Rick's called in before and asked me to set aside my whiteness. So we're not running from any race conversations here. I don't think I've ever showed any lack of courage when it comes to disagreement, no matter how sensitive the subject. The reason that I don't say white people is because when I say the NFL is worried about its bottom line, business isn't about black and white, Rick. Business is about green, and green is translated into numbers, percentages. What percentage of my fan base am I appealing to? What percentage of my fan base am I offending? And the bottom line is this, and you don't want to believe it, and every other member of the sports media is going to lie to you about it, and you can put your fingers in your ear and nah all day about it. But you can, and by the way, you can go to Twitter and get a warped view of the world. The majority of Americans out there do not like it when they pay for a product and watch the employees of that product kneel before the national anthem. It's not about the cause. It's about the action, the symbol. If you think that's my value judgment, go forward. Try it. See if it works for your business.
The percentage of people like what he's saying that don't like it, and I hear your point to the money, the percentage of people that don't like it are more than not underprivileged, don't have a voice, and this kneeling somehow gives these people a voice. And I'm going to go by percentages because I don't like to say all, and mostly these people who are spoken for by the kneeling are black and brown. And mostly the people who are going, it's really about patriotism, it's about war, it's about this, it's about that. And Colin Kaepernick never made a statement, my man, that said he wasn't for or didn't have any appreciation for the veterans who had sacrificed their lives and things for him. He wants them to be treated better. He wants these injustices to go away. And by percentages, because I don't like to say all, because there's some black people, there's some brown people all over the place in here, the wider side of things, and I don't even like to say that, Will, but I hear where he's coming from, are on that side.
Yeah.
And they try to mask it by saying, it's your country, it's this. And it's more so what he's saying is keep it 100 and keep it real with these people, that those percentages are more white people.
That's not keeping it 100. That's keeping it inaccurate. You're right on your correlation of race and how people feel about this act of protest. You're right.
We'll say percentages, our percentages.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're reverse engineering it. Then you say, well, the NFL's trying to appeal to white people. No, it's not. It's trying to appeal to the majority of its fan base. If the majority, the sheer 51 to 60% of it reflected, had a different skin tone, Ryan.
Can you correct
hold on, just
that?
listen to this. Just stay with me because sometimes, as you said,
No,
sometimes we talk at each other. We don't listen.
No, I hear your point.
If the skin tone of the 50, 60, 70% was reversed, I'll promise you, the NFL would be on that side of the ledger. It's on the dollar sign, the majority side of the ledger, not the racial side of the ledger.
So we're basically saying, let's not sugarcoat. So when you reverse this, we're going to say this, you're saying it's on the white side because the white side is the money side. Because there's probably more.
And keep going with it, just so it's complete.
Okay, completed.
It's on, and by the way,
hold on,
you and I are recognizing this white side thing is sloppy. It's sloppy.
I don't like it. I don't like it either.
It's sloppy.
I don't like it as just
because there are white people who disagree with me, and there are black people who agree with me. And by the way, that's a small percentage.
And that's why I say percentage. We'll just say percentages.
It's a sloppiness that I'm uncomfortable with. But so as long as we're doing this, the white side, the money side, because it's the percentage side.
Okay.
The higher percentage of the fan base.
I can't say that because there are so many people of black and brown who watch the NFL and love the NFL but can't afford to make it to games, can't afford to buy those box suites. So when you have certain crowds, we'll just say by the percentages, there are more white people sitting in the front rows, sitting in those box seats than people of color, than people that are black and brown. So you're going to appeal.
Know who their customers
you're
are,
going to appeal. They know who their paying customers are. Well, they're going to appeal to them. And guess what? Those black and brown people, I'm going to call them out and said, I'm boycotting the NFL. They sure watched that Super Bowl. They sure watched. Ain't nobody just tuned the NFL out.
African Americans are 13% of the United States population. It will always be hard for African Americans to win a business argument where there's this big a divide. It will be. It's not just what you described about differences in who's buying seats and all that. It's legitimately a minority interest. And I am sympathetic to the problems that come with being a minority like those numbers, 13%. It does mean a country where you have to have constitutional protections to protect minorities. It does mean all these things. But what it doesn't mean is that businesses can't be worried about their bottom line. It doesn't mean that if a business says, I want to appeal to my customers that they're being racist.
I just think, and I think when my man said cowardice, is just saying that they don't want to lose money at the cost of integrity. They don't want to lose out on millions or billions of dollars at their integrity. And I respect that, because that choice, that Colin Kaepernick choice, that choice to come out and speak, it comes with some repercussion. You could be out the NFL. NFL, you could lose billions of dollars if a McDonald's or a Budweiser or a Gatorade sponsor or a Nike sponsor pulls out because you guys took a certain stance.
I'm with you. I want to ask you one more thing because I'm running out of time. I really want to get you on this. Jeff Darlington is about to come in here. So a lot of these guys I'm talking about, like on Twitter, the Shannon Sharps, whatever. I point out that the NBA has a stricter rule than the NFL, right? They respond, well, Steve Kerr, they collectively bargained it. Man, get out of here with that collective bargaining nonsense. The NBA has a stricter rule. I feel this, Ryan. I want to know what you think. The NBA is playing a dangerous, holier-than-thou game. They're criticizing Steve Kerr, Adam Silver, the NFL. The only thing the NBA has going for it, that it's protected right now, yeah, they have a good relationship with their players, but it takes one player to kneel, and then they're going to have to deal with the same problem.
Let me give you the underlying real quick.
Meaning this business problem.
We sway our rules. When something comes into play, the commissioner, Adam Silver, is going to communicate with players, and we will make the best decision for our league, even though there is a rule there.
I believe you.
That's what we're going to do.
The NBA has a much better relationship with its players.
And because the players, our players have become these global markets, we've got a lot of players that have their own brand. I mean, LeBron James alone could be he could be half the NBA as a brand alone. Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Porzingis, all these Lonzo Ball, all these young stars own their own brand. So as far as this money moves around, we can appeal to, I don't want to say our people, but we can appeal to a stance that holds strong to us, that means the majority, even though...
I'm with you. The NBA has a better relationship. They would weather the storm better. But the NBA better adhere to the notion, there but for the grace of God go I. Because the reason that they're able to talk down right now to the NFL is because they're not dealing with the same problem.
I don't agree. I think as players, we have just stepped forth and made a bigger stand. And I'm going to challenge the NFL to challenge their own players union, because I hear Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, any of these. I know Brett Favre's a little older, but he can have a voice. Step up and have Colin Kaepernick's back. I didn't hear any of those guys even just
What if they disagree with
it.
him, man? What if they disagree?
Step up and say something. Players, you should be united.
No, they shouldn't.
If there's an injustice, if there's an injustice, and all that Kaepernick said is that these people should be treated better.
To hell with united. What is with this requirement that everybody be united? Players have different opinions. Media members should have different opinions. Stop with the everybody's got to believe the same thing. Tom Brady doesn't have to believe the same thing as Kaepernick.
Did Kaepernick send out a message that Brady really wouldn't agree with? That people should be treated better, and that we should be equal, and that you should have
But that's what
fairness.
you're making it.
No. That was the only thing that Kaepernick said.
All right.
That's why he kneeled. He didn't want to disrespect.
I got to go. I'm getting, I literally almost, they put the thing around my neck and pulled me off stage here. This is really good, though. I really appreciate it, man. All right, that's Ryan Hollins. Will Cain Show is presented by
quite
Progressive.
spirited.
It always should be. Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. All right, I'm way over time. I'm sorry. But this isn't going to get any less hot. Hang. I got more. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing My Blue. My Blue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With My Blue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. There's a range of flavors to choose from, and it takes just 20 minutes to charge. For a limited time, Blue is letting you try their new My Blue Starter Kit for just $1. But hurry, this won't last long. Terms and conditions apply. Go to myblue.com today to learn more.
All right, give me a call, 888-729-3776. Let's mix it up. Now, ESPN NFL insider Jeff Darlington jumps in studio here to hang out with me on the Will Cain Show.
Tough seat to fill.
Ryan left it hot.
Yeah.
Ryan left it hot.
Bring in the privileged white guy to handle the rest. I mean, what am I going to say?
man, you have a right to your point of view and an opinion just like anybody else. I'm really against this idea that somehow because you look a certain way, grew up a certain way, and I'm not pushing back on you, Jeff. It's just I think we walk into this media thing like, well, we can't have two white dudes. You know what the thing about racism is? Racism is a two-way street. To be racist, you would assume somebody's on the other side of that equation, right? So there's a white and a black side of all of these conversations. For that matter, there's a brown side. There's a male-female side. And just because we don't represent all sides right now doesn't mean there's not a conversation to be had. So anyway, I want your voice. I want Ryan's voice. I want everyone's voice. All right, man.
I'm just not very polarizing person.
What happened here? Tell me about the process of the NFL's anthem policy. How did it go down?
Well, I think that's one thing that's pretty interesting to me, that a number of the players I spoke to, those on both sides of the aisle here, both with the opinion that there should be no policy and those that actually, plenty of players who I've spoken to who do think that this thing needed to get quote unquote under control. All of them were frustrated by the way the NFL went about this. The sense that they sort of reignited something that didn't necessarily require a stoking. And the one thing I'd say there, while I do sort of agree with that, it feels clumsy the way the NFL did go about this. I do wonder if by week 1, week 2, week 3, if this next wave of what will definitely be another wave of controversy, it's coming because the rules don't state what you can and can't do as a protest. There will be players who push the envelope and push the line and ultimately wind up having their teams levy fines against them. And then there's going to be another round of this. After that, though, will it finally be quieted because there's a policy in place? You could argue that, yes, there will be.
I agree. I think in the long run, this is going to work, this policy. The amount of public attention, the amount of public outrage will go down.
The one thing I would say that's interesting, because there's really two options. You leave it alone, right? You just leave it alone and it quells itself, which, by the way, it had quelled itself in the middle of last season, or toward the beginning of last season, until Donald Trump made the comments saying that players shouldn't be allowed to do this. And a lot of the players that I had spoken to after that, their point was not even going back to Colin Kaepernick's initial protest of need for social reform. It was instead, this guy's not going to tell me what I can and can't do. He can't tell me that. Mm-hmm. So now it's the commissioner of the NFL and the 32 owners who are 31 owners telling me what I can and can't do. That's a whole different, another round that we need to go through. If they had done nothing at all, would it have just quieted down? Would it have just simmered down? Would it have just ended itself? I don't know.
I don't know either. I tend to think, though, that you're absolutely 100% right. There's going to be another wave of this, and then the fact that players stay in the locker room is just not going to be as inflammatory as kneeling for the national anthem. And then over the months, this issue will have been quelled. Now, that being said, just because it works in the long run, Jeff, if you and I are right, that doesn't mean the NFL got there the right way.
No, I don't.
They're pretty reactionary every step of the way.
Well, that's generally the problem with the NFL. I mean, you could point to a number of different things going back to Ray Rice and probably before that. And even now, like there's this simmering little thing bubbling on below the surface about the cheerleaders in the NFL, right? Like that's a story we're not really talking about. But like if I'm the NFL, I'm saying like, how can we get in front of something like this before it becomes a full blown crisis? How about we proactively raise the wages of cheerleaders across the league? Like I know this might sound dumb to you. Like it might seem like kind of just, I don't know, not even close. It's not even close to the anthem controversy, but it's just this thing where the NFL waits for something to bubble over and become a crisis and then reacts with what seems like something that is far too delayed.
Absolutely reactionary. Absolutely finger in the wind. Window, what do you call it? Window vein? Wind sock.
Put your finger up there and see which way the wind's blowing. And
absolutely
then
how they do
and I think that if that was the one thing, and I mean, it's really
weather vane. Thank you, Cerruti.
It's really hard to say that because hindsight is 20/20 and it's easier said than done. All those kind of cliches, but that is ultimately what I think the best crisis management is when you avoid the crisis completely.
All right, Jeff Darlington here on the Will Cain Show. I want to get one more topic in here with you. I'm fascinated by this story of Richie Incognito. You know, he retired from the Buffalo Bills, but then they send messages out that he might still want to play. Story is, Jeff, he's working out in South Florida, And I'll have you fill in the details, but he got in a fight, and now he's been checked into a psychiatric ward. What's going on with Richie Incognito?
So this is a really difficult thing for me to dive into if you want to talk about that. I don't even know how to do it in a way that provides the privacy that Richie needs right now. With what's really difficult about mental...
Well, don't overshare. That's
I'm not. It's not about oversharing. The tough part for me about this is like when mental illness goes both ways. Right? Like when we see someone who is extremely depressed, I think that we have far more sympathy for them than someone who might be going through something on the other end of the spectrum because it is aggressive in nature.
Like mania, you're saying, like the other end of bipolar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mania. When we read TMZ's report on this about what exactly happened and how he thought the government was, spying on him and all these things, this is mental illness. And Richie is, when he is following the proper regimen, I've talked to him about this a lot over the years, when he has gone through great times, ups and downs, when he is, and I'm comfortable saying this because I know Richie and I have talked about this at length. In fact, I did a really in-depth story about it years ago about his battle with mental illness. And it's just so hard because he's such an incredible person when he is under the right treatment, is medicated the right word. I don't know this is where it's tough to, you don't want to overshare, but he's dealing with the demons right now. Like he's in this thing, man. This is deep. This is dark. And this is really difficult. And I just pray that he gets out of this and finds his way out, because what a lot of people don't realize, they connect him to the Jonathan Martin thing. And then they see when he beat up his Lamborghini after that Jonathan Martin thing, they connect those two things. Well, there's Richie being crazy again. And it's actually not nearly as simple. And it's a very nuanced thing. And I would just say right now, rather than laugh at him and call him crazy, I would just say, just have some sympathy for mental illness on both sides of the spectrum.
Man, I think you did a good job.
I don't know, man.
No, I do. And I appreciate
you
you sharing. I don't think you overshared. You gave us some insight there on what's going on with him. And
just don't assume that this is just a guy who wanted to retire. And Richie loves football as much as anybody I've ever met in my life. So when he says that he wants to retire, there's something off there.
All right, man. Good stuff. ESPN
right.
NFL insider Jeff Darlington here on the Will Cain Show.
Today, man.
It's what it is, man.
I know.
You just got to go where it is.
Cool.
All right, give me a call. 888-729-3776. Your call's next on the Will Cain Show.
Take a stand. You say that you have to stand for the national anthem or you don't.
We made modifications to our anthem policy.
Putting the focus back on the game. I think we learned from each other.
I think throughout this process, all of us have grown much closer to our players.
Colin Kaepernick's protest never once got in the way of a football game being played.
This was A, unanimous, and B, the league went to great pains to show that unanimity by having 4 different owners come out with Ron Trudell and speak to the process of getting to this moment.
It's Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. So what's the debate, Rudy? Nuno wants me to get off social media. You think it's fine?
Nuno asked me, he didn't ask, he told me. He said he's got to get off social media. It's impacting him too much.
No, I said, do you think he should stop checking social media?
No, there was no question.
When we're doing shows like this, because it's probably might send you in a tailspin.
It was more like, Will's got to get off social media.
Yeah, there was no question involved. It was a statement.
Hold on, let me do it. That's good, Bubba. Start again. This effing guy. He's got to get off social media.
Got to get off social media.
And your contention
is always
Rudy,
a sigh
no.
first. There's always a sigh.
I think you need to know the pulse of what people are saying about what you're saying.
So, but we know that social media is not the pulse. We know that. And you're saying it gives me an edge.
We have.
Right? You're saying it gives me an edge.
Maybe. I mean, you definitely got fired up. Ryan Hollins said you were sweating.
I'm going to fight Ryan Hollins, all 7 feet of him. And I'm not even worried about it. If I get inside of his reach, it's not going to be a problem. Like, all I have to do is get inside the reach. That could be a challenge. But once I'm in...
I don't like your chances. Not going to lie.
You want me to tell you something? I think he's scared of me. I do. Dan from Alabama. Are you scared of me, Dan?
Oh, Will. Not at all.
All right, man. Bring it. What do you got?
Well, just wanted to throw out a little bit of nuance to you. I know you're a nuanced guy, so you might appreciate it. But unfortunately, part of this, you're also a numbers guy. Part of it is also feelings that are associated with it. Like if you look at what Rick was talking about, if you look at the breakdown population-wise and the way...
Real quick, I'm sorry, just to clarify for people listening that might not have been listening about 45 minutes ago. Rick was a guy that said, when I'm talking about the bottom line, what I'm really talking about is white people, right?
Yeah. And like, I don't think that's necessarily true, but there's the perception side of it. So like when you look at the way, well, first off, like among white Americans, it was proportionately disapproving of the way that the flag protest was going down. And then when you looked at people of color, it was proportionately approving of how the protests were going down as far as the anthem. And the whole thing starts, right, because of the way that people feel about the protest and how it's going on, which leads to the NFL boycotts and things like that. So it was an emotional reaction to the protest that brought us to where we are. So that brings emotion into the mix. And then when you flip it around over on the Rick's side, where you see the NFL kind of saying, all right, well, we're going to keep the protesting from happening, that's going to generate an emotional reaction from Rick's side. So regardless of which side you're on and which side you believe is correct, the emotional side of it's just going to be part and parcel of it.
Yeah, but okay,
now,
so the thing about it is, all right, I appreciate the call, Dan, and the breakdown. The thing about it is, you know, what was it, Cerruti? You just tweeted out like my rant, right? And Mina Kimes, ESPN contributor, writer for the magazine and so forth, she responded, right? So just tell me what I said and what then she responded.
Yeah, the premise of yours was players don't have to share the NFL's viewpoint, but you don't get offended by you don't get to offend the customers, meaning the players don't get to offend the customers. It's a very simple message, and she just responded with which customers, though.
Right, and that brings us to this white-black thing, and the answer is the majority of customers. I don't care about their race. The NFL doesn't care about their race. They care about trying to preserve the largest percentage of their business. And I want you to think about this because Dan just brought up emotion. Now the NFL has a policy where you don't have to come out for the anthem. So there's no mandated sign up. You're not required to parrot, as Max Kellerman says, anybody's speech. So I just want you to think about how the public's going to internalize this right now. The NFL player is saying, if this is a bad policy, right? If this policy is no good, I should be allowed to protest anytime I want while getting paid millions. I don't have to be out here anymore. Now I'm going to go out of my way to come out here and protest. And you ask me, I mean, you answer for me. How's that going to go with the customer base? You're getting paid millions and now you're going out of your way when you don't have to do it to protest during this moment. You think that's going to be good for the majority of business. P.I. from Florida. You're on the Will Cain Show.
What's going on, Will?
What's up, man? P.I.
Trying to figure out, I guess, what's
Hold on, P.I. You're a great
caller.
caller. That's why I love having you on. I just want to set the table for you. You got a little over a minute, okay?
Okay. Got 1 minute. All right. So I guess I'm trying to figure out what about this makes you think that this is somehow going to fix anything. I think all you did was took the protest from on the field to now who's all in the locker room. Are they in the locker room before the anthem? What about those people who have, like, player introductions? Are they going to come out, do the little dances, and then go back into the locker room?
All right, I'm going to answer that for you, P.I. I'm going to answer that for you, okay? But first, I got to do this. 30 for 30 podcasts have returned. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts right now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or on Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/30. P.I., and for anybody listening, this is what I think is going to happen. I think there will be, in the first couple weeks, a lot of focus on who's in the locker room and who's on the field, who's pushing the limits and who's not. And then, honestly, I do think it will go away, P.I., because I just don't think it's as inflammatory paying attention to who's in the locker room than who's kneeling for the anthem. I think that NFL did solve their problems in the long run. Did the Rockets redeem themselves? That next on the Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast. This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
James Harden, Mike D'Antoni, Chris Paul, who found redemption the other night in Oakland? Which of the Houston Rockets have redeemed themselves from the narrative that's plagued their careers? And are we watching the best season of all time for an NBA rookie? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can give me a call, 888-729-3776. You can answer those questions. I promise you, we're going to get back to the NFL's new anthem policy. and how everybody from sports media to the NFL players seems to think it's the plague of locusts that's descended upon the NFL. But I need a little break. I need a breather. Serenity now. Serenity now. Let's talk some sports. ESPN Radio on First Take, by the way. It continues tomorrow. Don't miss. Oh, yeah? Don't miss Will Cain from The Will Cain Show. 10 a.m. Eastern Time. On ESPN. I'm doing the radio takeover next week, or tomorrow on First Take, huh?
Yeah, even though you're on most days.
That'll be different. I'm gonna have to check my schedule. I got a big right-wing conspiracy meeting I got to get to at about lunchtime. So I don't know if I can break myself
Can't
away.
miss that.
Nah. So, it's when we all get together. Ah, my God. All right, I'll put it to you. Every single one of these guys had a narrative building about their career, right? James Harden, he disappears in the playoffs. Last year, what did James Harden go? 0 for, what was it, Srudy? Do you remember? It was 0 for, did he go like 0 for 12?
Talking Game 6 last year?
Yeah, that stinker he put up against the Spurs. Bunch of turnovers. Everybody's saying James Harden, he disappears when the playoffs come. So how did he play the other night when it mattered? Down 2-1 against the Golden State Warriors? Against the greatest team of all time? He played well. We're not going to say great, because if you go back and look at it, it's James Harden's defense that actually bailed him out the other night. A little bit inefficient on the offensive end, but part of his redemption story. What's up?
10 points, 2 of 11 shooting, 6 turnovers, and then fouled out.
Oof. Rough. Okay, so that's candidate number 1. Did James Harden redeem himself? Candidate number 2, Chris Paul, who did play great the other night, who not only played great offensively, but as you were so ready to point out the next day, Srudy, D'd up Kevin Durant pretty well.
I still don't understand how that even happens.
Chris Paul, of course, has been dealing with the idea that he couldn't get beyond the semifinals of the playoffs. He's now in the conference finals. And so did that performance and the Rockets' fight against the Golden State Warriors, did it redeem Chris Paul? Or candidate 3, did it redeem Mike D'Antoni? Mike D'Antoni, who said, number 1, that the pressure was all on the Golden State Warriors, I think ridiculously. Mike D'Antoni, who's dealt with the idea, the storyline, that he can't get his team to the NBA Finals, much less win a championship. There's no D in D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni, did he redeem himself in Game 4? But before you answer for me which one might have redeemed themselves, I asked Stephen A. this on First Take. Is there any redemption for James Harden, D'Antoni, or Chris Paul short of winning the series against Golden State? Is there any redemption for them in a noble defeat?
I don't think so. Even though if they lose the series, it won't change my thought of Chris Paul. I think James Harden built up some equity in Game 4, but if they lose the series, both those guys, it's gonna be used against them in the future. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I actually think you're being a little harsh.
You think we'll be okay with it? Oh, I don't think we're going to be okay with it.
I think there is redemption for them in a noble defeat, and I think it's because of who we've come to believe the Golden State Warriors are. They're the best team in the league. They are almost perfect. They are unbeatable. In my estimation, they're the greatest team of all time. So if James Harden plays well, if Chris Paul rises to the occasion, I don't think we're going to hold it against them if they play well and still fall to the Golden State Warriors. I don't know, Cerruti, if they'll achieve full redemption, but it won't be something that's used as evidence of their past failures.
So you think Game 4 did that much? Because otherwise, what are we going off of? That's really the only accomplishment that they have. All right, they tied it at 2. Cool.
I think it's less about what they did in Game 4 and more about who I think the Warriors are. And I'm talking about their performances going forward. If they choke in the next couple games, if both of those guys play poorly, no. That's going to crush them. That'll feed into the previous narrative. But play with me on the hypothetical. They play well, but still lose. That's not going to be held against them. How can it? It's the Golden State Warriors.
I agree with you, but I just don't think the public thinks that way. We look for these things to use against players. We do it for LeBron in the finals, even though like LeBron's record in the finals, if he makes it again this year, and he might not, we've talked about, it might be better for his career. We use his finals record against him, even though he's been an underdog in all but 2 of them.
Yes, that's true.
we just don't think rationally when it comes. Like years down the line, we're going to look at this and be like, oh yeah, and remember when James Harden couldn't get to the finals, or when Chris Paul couldn't get to the finals? But no one thinks contextually about it.
It's a good rebuttal. LeBron didn't get this caveat. Why would James Harden and Chris Paul? The NBA Western Conference Finals are on ESPN Radio. Tune in for Game 5 tonight as Harden and the Rockets host Durant and the Warriors. Presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on most ESPN stations. Rudy, you brought this up earlier. Are we watching the greatest season of all time by a rookie? Boston Celtics forward Jason Tatum is playing amazing. He had 24 points last night, 7 of 15 shooting, and he says he can rise to the occasion.
I mean, I just enjoy, playing in the big moments, in the big games. I think that's, when I have the most fun, when things are on the line, and, a lot of guys stepped up tonight. And, I can't say it enough, with one win away from going to the finals, especially after everything we've been through.
A lot of talk this season about Donovan Mitchell, how far he carried the Utah Jazz. Jason Tatum is leading his team in scoring. He's leading his team to a 3-2 advantage over LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's about to lead his team to the NBA Finals. Is that the greatest season of all time by an NBA rookie?
Yeah, and I saw a stat that it was I think he was one 20-point game in the playoffs behind Kareem for most 20-point games in the playoffs as a rookie. And if he gets to the finals, he's going to break that record. And Kareem that year, his team, I believe, was 1970. It was the Bucks. They lost in the Eastern Conference Final. So if Tatum gets to the to the NBA Finals, how is this not the greatest rookie season of all time?
And he
might not even win the Rookie of the Year.
And he wasn't even he's not going to win Rookie of the Year. And he wasn't unanimous first team All Rookie. Only Mitchell and Simmons were.
It was one vote, right?
Can't remember.
Who's the guy? What are we doing?
By the way, I've made the argument several times, and I stand by this. I know that the postseason awards for the NBA are, MVP and Rookie of the Year, it's a regular season award. I don't think it should be. I think it should be in totality. I think it should take the playoffs into account because the NBA playoffs are so clearly different and important to what's going on. Like what actually matters in that sport, why would you just accept it? Like just take it out of the equation. I don't think it should. And if you can't get your team to the playoffs, hey man, maybe you weren't the MVP.
Well, LeBron would probably win it every year then, right?
He would have a much better case, wouldn't he?
He doesn't really care about the regulars.
And if that's the case, Jason Tatum would win. He'd probably win Rookie of the Year. All right, coming up, probably going to have to keep coming back to it here and there. The NFL's anthem policy. Does compromise ever work? How'd you manage to make everybody mad? That's next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
We made modifications to our Anthem policy. We want people to be respectful and we want people to stand.
If a player chooses to protest on the sideline, the NFL will fine the player.
Making sure all personnel stand on the field.
I don't think this is going to help. If anything, it's going to make more players protest.
They weren't speaking against the rights of athletes. They weren't speaking against black folks. They weren't speaking against anything other than what affected their bottom line.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. Give me a call, 888-729-3776. The NFL has enacted a new anthem policy. It is such. Players, coaches, and trainers are to stand and line up. I'm sorry. That was an honest mistake. I was just reading to you the NBA's policy. Oh, well, let's go ahead with it. This is the NBA's policy on the national anthem. Players, coaches, and trainers are to stand and line up in a dignified posture along the sidelines or on the foul line during the playing of the national anthem. Period. End of sentence. How about that? Mandated. Required. Better do it. Gotta be there in the NBA. Let's compare it to the NFL, shall we? Here's the one the NFL adopted today. Players and team personnel are to stand and show respect for the flag and the anthem if they are on the field during the performance. Players, however, have the option of going to the locker room during the national anthem. According to Steelers owner Art Rooney, if they don't feel that's within the way they feel about the particular subjects. So, you don't have to come on the field. You can stay in the locker room. But if you come on the field, you have to stand for the national anthem. Now that, for some reason, is a bridge too far for many. And look, man, every time I hang out with you guys, every time we talk for 3 hours, from 3 to 6 here on ESPN Radio, I'm honest with you. I tell you how I feel. I think I'm right. I think I've given it a lot of thought. I think I've done my best to see every side of the issue. But it doesn't protect me from being wrong, nor anyone else for that matter. And there are people that I respect that are often wrong. I tend to like Chris Long's, choices in life, some of his points of view, and I think he's wrong on many. I think he's wrong on this. Chris thinks this is a bad policy. Doug Baldwin, also of the Seattle Seahawks, I think he's wrong on this.
To me, this just further punctuates the tone deafness or the disconnect between the NFL and its players. The NFL just doesn't get it. It's more of a PR move to me than anything. It's not really trying to get to the gist of it. I don't really think they ever did care about the initiatives or the things that the players cared about. It's, again, about their bottom line.
I respect Doug Baldwin. I think he's 100% wrong. When does compromise ever work? I said this earlier when talking to Bill Polian, who was in studio here. Compromise, I spent a little time in politics before I came over to sports, and compromise is, or rather, can be a virtue. But we've elevated the idea of compromise as though it is always a virtue. And it's not. Like trying to please everybody, trying to find a middle ground, the idea that if everybody's wrong, you're onto something, it's not always a virtue. Here's Trey Wingo on Golic and Wingo.
Really, in an attempt to try and compromise with the people they didn't talk about compromise with, they've really put the players in a very difficult spot because now, as Michael Kay alluded to, and we've talked about it, week 1 of the NFL season, every beat reporter for every team is going to go down a list. Who's on the sidelines, who isn't in the sidelines. Guess what they're going to talk about instead of the result of that game? Tell me why you weren't on the sidelines and what was your reason for it and what was your rationale. Thus perpetuating the story that had quite frankly been over. Very few people were protesting the last few weeks of the season. Now they've taken a small fire, which was almost out, and decided to put a gallon of gas on it.
The reaction of the media, the reaction of NFL players, the reaction of some out there to an attempt at compromise, honestly, you know what it undercuts? The idea of compromise. There are some walks of life when sometimes compromise isn't the way to go. Some argue it's that way in foreign policy. Others argue right here. Don't do something you think's going to try to please everybody because you can't win. Just do what you think's right and let the chips fall where they may. You know what the NFL could have done? They could have just Xerox copied the NBA policy and made it strict and mandatory. Hey, boys, when that anthem starts playing, I want everybody's toes pointed forward on the line and hands over heart. They could have done that. How would that have been reacted to today? How would that have been accepted? Instead, they did this. You don't have to share my points of view, but you don't get to come out and offend part of the customer base. You don't. So how did compromise work out for them? And just one more question before I take some of your calls. Why is the NFL, why is the National Football League the proxy for everybody's politics and morality? Just help me out on that one. I don't see this going down over at GE. I don't see this going down at Apple. I don't see this going down in the NBA. It's just the NFL. The NFL's the battleground for all of our political fights, from domestic violence to race to policing to symbolism over the national anthem. It's our fight for everything. Here's a question for you. It should be simple. Why? Why the NFL? You can't tell me it's because their policy's more strict. So what is it? Why is the NFL your target? Carlton from Tampa, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Let me see if I can break this down for you with a little simple quiz. Besides making money, which the 31 owners, not the Green Bay Packers, who are effectively a collective, but the other 31, they want to make money. What's the second most important objective of an NFL team?
Besides making money?
Yeah.
To win a championship.
To win games. That's right. Does anybody in their right mind thinks that Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and getting his hometown fans to boo every single time he stepped on the field for week after week after week, plus dividing his locker room because half the guys believed he was wrong and were on the wrong side of the argument, and the other half was. Did anybody think in their wildest dreams that contributed to the objective of the team to win football games, which is, by the way, the objective of a large segment of the fans? They don't get two raps patooties about all the politics. In fact, they want to watch football to get away from the insane divisions in the country where everybody's on one side or the other and nobody listens to each other and just lines up in whatever lunatic fringe element that they're in. Does anybody think that Colin Kaepernick contributed to the objective of the team? And if the answer is no, then what the 49ers should have done is said, you either stand and stop dividing this team and our fan base, or you find a new job. That's exactly what should have happened. And now they're in this mess. And if you think the Donald is going to leave this alone, if he thinks there's going to be an opportunity to inflame his base, you're delusional, Will. This is going to continue as long as he thinks he's going to be able to utilize it for his own benefit.
Carlton, quickly, why the NFL? Why is this happening in the NFL and not all these other walks of life?
Because it's the most popular sport. Donald is using this. Our president is using this to, it's the best PR he's got beyond Twitter. I mean, so many people care about the NFL, and so it allows him to rile up his troops.
All right, thanks for the call, Carlton. You can tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Life special events. Call for a beautiful bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen Gerbera daisies starting at $29.99, you'll get a free vase. For details, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I've got more calls. I'm going to try to take them. I'm also going to ask you this question. What's up with LeBron? I mean, is he gassed? Is he tired? You cannot tell me he looked normal last night. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Sometimes it's hard to find a satisfying vape that's simple and convenient. Blue, who introduced vaping to the world, is now introducing My Blue. My Blue gives you all the satisfaction with none of the hassle. Just click and go. With My Blue's easy-to-use one-click liquid pods, you can switch between flavors in seconds. There's a range of flavors to choose from, and it takes just 20 minutes to charge. For a limited time, Blue is letting you try their new My Blue starter kit for just $1. But hurry, this won't last long. Terms and conditions apply. Go to myblue.com today to learn more.
His body has been under so much stress for months now trying to carry this team.
I think everybody at this point is tired, worn down, or whatever the case may be, but still trying to make plays to help our team win.
He just didn't have it. His biorhythms were not working for him tonight.
It just looks like he's mentally tired. He's tired of seeing his supporting cast not show up for him.
He didn't look engaged at all in this game. And that clearly was able to transfer it to everybody else on this basketball team.
The Eastern Conference Finals is headed back to Cleveland. The question is, which LeBron James will be headed back to Cleveland with the team? The truth of the matter is, that's a change. The whole story of this series, as I've been laying it out for you for weeks now, is how does the supporting cast react? Good in Cleveland, bad in Boston. No different last night. Kevin Love scored 14, but just look at this stat line outside of Kevin Love. Tristan Thompson, 0 for 3, 1 point. George Hill, 1 for 5, 7 points. J.R. Smith, 1 for 6, 2 points. By the way, on J.R. Smith, just to keep these different conversational balls up in the air, Emmett Golden, who's a host on radio there in Cleveland, who I've interacted with a few times and enjoy, he just tweeted at me and told me, for what it's worth, J.R. Smith has stayed in the locker room all season during the national anthem. So I don't know if the NBA rule doesn't apply, if they don't enforce it, their strict rule of requiring everybody to be on the court. But J.R. Smith, according to Emmett Golden, is telling me he hasn't been on the floor for the national anthem. What's up, Nuno?
If I'm not mistaken, when I know they passed this, they said you can stay off the court, like stay in the locker room. With when there was Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Well, I'm looking at the policy right here. It doesn't say anything about that. It just says players and trainers are to stand. I mean, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, by the way, I just butchered that. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. That's the NBA's 1996. I mean, everybody says the NBA. I don't understand the NBA defender on this. Like, the NBA is just being high and mighty on something they can't be high and mighty about. All they need is one player in the NBA to kneel. And then this problem's on their doorstep. This business issue is on their doorstep. Because they suspended Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. They took money out of his pocket in 1996. And if you think, oh, well, then they got together and they sorted out their problems, he was gone 2 or 3 years later, out of the league at age 29. Don't tell me the NBA's got it all figured out here. All right, back to the game. So what's up with LeBron? I'm going to submit this evidence to you because he's not the same. While the supporting cast has been missing, everybody's pointing to LeBron being different. First, listen to Ty Lue.
Did LeBron look tired to you? And especially, did you think he looked tired at all tonight?
He looked a little tired to me, yes.
Now listen to Tim Legler.
I made a note 5 minutes into the game. It's one of the first notes I wrote down tonight was, why is LeBron grabbing his shorts and bending over on a free throw attempt 5-6 minutes into the game? It just didn't look right. They're going to feed off of this guy's energy level. Sure. He's been sensational, obviously. What he has done in the postseason is almost superhuman. But tonight, for whatever reason, he just didn't have it. His biorhythms were not working for him tonight.
Now listen to Paul Pierce.
Well, I didn't see the defensive energy I saw he put forth in Game 4, where he was giving you blocks and steals and getting out in the open court, finishing layups. It just looks like he's mentally tired. He's tired of seeing his supporting cast not show up for him. That can wear on you over time when you're just constantly knowing you have to go out there and score 40 points, get 12 assists in order for your team to have a win. It just seems like it's getting to him mentally, and the Celtics are wearing him down because they have so many weapons, so many different guys who can play well, and I think it looks like it was getting to him.
And finally, listen to Jeff Van Gundy.
I thought, he had a game that was very forgettable tonight. He continues to turn the ball over at a high rate. Defensively, not as energetic as we saw in Cleveland, particularly in Game 3. And so he's going to have to be great, but he's got to get some help. Love, I thought, had a good game. Everybody else had a very, very below-average offensive output.
He's going to have to get some help. There's no doubt about it. But if he's gone, if he's not up to LeBron James standard, they're done. They're toast. So what was up with LeBron James last night? Because at a minimum, you say he didn't look normal. To me, I'm just going to say this, to me, he looked like he was sick. Low energy, chugging water, and looked like from a Pedialyte type bottle. Defeated a little bit. Towel, body language, just didn't look healthy. Now, it all matters for what we're going to find in the next game. A must-win for the Cavs, obviously. A closeout game for the Celtics. So, yeah, you need J.R. Smith back. You need Kyle Korver back. You need George Hill back. You need J.R. Smith back. But are you going to have LeBron James back? What do you think, Cerruti? What was up with LeBron?
All the body language stuff would tell you that something was wrong. Here's the thing that I don't understand too. Why it's okay to admit there's something wrong. Why do all these NBA players, and maybe it's because we as viewers and media and fans give them too much crap for making excuses. But if he's legitimately sick, I don't have a problem with him saying that he's sick. It's not an excuse. It's just a fact. Like Chris Paul, his foot was clearly injured. Mike D'Antoni said it, and Chris Paul even himself alluded to it when he was finally healthy. But why are we so afraid to just admit something's wrong?
I think sickness usually comes out. We knew about Jordan's flu game. We knew when Dirk was sick in the 2011 finals. We know when guys are sick. It'll come out if he was sick. By the way, this isn't excuse making. Some are saying, why are you giving him an excuse for a poor performance? I mean, if you watched the game, you saw he wasn't normal. It wasn't his normal poor performance. He was just off physically. What's up?
I mean, LeBron was out there sick. We're making excuses. Michael Jordan, Game 6, flu game.
He wasn't listening, was he? Wasn't listening, was he?
I wasn't.
This is unbelievable.
That's exactly what went down in the meeting the other day, right?
That could not have gone any better.
That's exactly what went down in the meeting.
My work here is done for the day.
New nickname, 10-second Nuno.
Wow, I mean, that could not have gone any better.
So, but just to clear off the decks here on your hot take, are you telling me that
Michael Jordan, the flu game? Come on.
Ever heard of it?
We're just going to ignore the flu game?
So to hell if he's sick. To hell of it.
Yeah. You know what? Your job is to be on that court and play, right?
Are we also just going to ignore November and December?
He was out
in
there,
the winter
right?
book? Do we just ignore November and December in the winter book?
No, it's November, not December. I mean, he was out there. No excuses. Don't want to hear it. Play.
Oh, all right. I want to do this transition real quick. Ann from Texas, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, I was listening to the show earlier, and I heard the word whiteness just thrown around, and I heard how white people are always in the box seat. Well, I just would like to say that week after week, I had my television on because I am a white person who cannot afford the box seat. And my dad is actually a police officer, and he does a very good job. However, I do agree that police brutality does exist. But I think it's unfair, and I refuse to take the blame and responsibility for what the owners voted themselves to do.
What do you mean you refuse to take the blame for what the owners voted to do?
I feel like they were blaming white people that this happened, that the owners voted for
this new policy. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ann. Quick question: did it offend you when players knelt for the national anthem?
No, I personally would stand because, let's face it, from elementary school, I'm 37 years old. I've always been taught that that's what you do, that was the respectful thing to do. But did I have a problem with it? No.
Okay.
I didn't.
All right.
So I don't feel like, I feel like throwing the word whiteness around is actually, really not fair.
I appreciate the call, Ann. I do. Well, look, this isn't going to be a show where we shy away from ideas like white and black. I'm not going to talk around the issues, but I know what you're saying, Ann. There's a lot of assumptions being made, a lot of sloppy math, a lot of broad brush on white people feel this way and black people feel that way. A lot of that in service of conclusions that people already want. The bottom line is what we were debating was whether or not the bottom line matters to businesses. And white or black, they want green. To get the green, they need the biggest percentage they can get. So if you're ever out there listening or tweeting or wondering which customers is the NFL trying to appease to, I'm going to give it to you. So listen tight here. The majority. Because that's where you get the most, ready? The most of this color. Green. All guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And the Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone on the ESPN app. You guys just wanted me to get through a bunch of reads there. Was that what that was? Because I've just not done them today?
We're a little behind.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tonight in Warriors-Rockets Game 5 next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All right, Rockets-Warriors tonight, Game 5, pivotal game here. Series tied up 2-2. It's back in Houston, so this is not like Celtics-Cavs here. This is still 83% of the time Game 5 winners go on to win the series. You're still dealing with that, but this is not must-win like it was for the Celtics. So, Rudy, I want to see if you agree with this logic. Last night was must-win for the Celtics if they're going to win the series. This is not must-win for the Warriors. They could still lose this game, go down 3-2, go back home, tie it up, and I believe in the Warriors to win a Game 7. But I think they will win tonight. I think it's the Golden State Warriors. I think they're going to respond to what happened to them at the end of the game. My only hesitation, man, my only holdup is what we heard from, who was it yesterday? Was it Haberstroh? Said basically they've changed. Like they're not the Warriors of the past that we talk about. KD, they're the KD vehicle now. They're a KD-driven team. They're an isolation team running Kevin Durant isolations most of the game. So if it's a whole new style of play, it makes me a little hesitant to go, the greatest team of all time, they'll be back. They'll respond.
It's easy to fall into that trap, though, when you have Kevin Durant, especially when he's being guarded by Chris Paul. Hey, dump it down to him, and that's your best matchup. Go to work. But you're right. They work best with ball movement and people moving off screens and everybody kind of getting involved. I do think tonight's obviously a must-win for the Rockets, right?
So they would be in the Celtics position there. We said it was a must-win for the Celtics. Got it right. What's up? Yes. Yeah, this is a must-win for the Rockets.
Because you can't bank on winning 2 straight games at Oracle when they, what were they, 16-0?
Only one of them would be at Oracle, but
Yeah, but you
2 in a row.
Exactly. Yeah, but you can't. I'm saying like you can't bank on that again. Like they already did steal a game at Oracle.
Yeah. No, and then on top of stealing a game at Oracle, to your point, they'd have to win 2 in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay. All right. Cool. Hit the button. Must win for the Rockets. I don't know what button. Must win for the Rockets. Not must win for the Warriors. But taking the Warriors.
Yeah.
Who are you taking?
Warriors. I think this is a classic letdown. Rockets have won a big game 4 and they lose game 5.
What are you looking at me for? Why are you looking at me?
Trying to pay attention. I usually miss something.
Flu game?
By the way, the Rockets win tonight, but anyway, I'm just paying attention.
You think the Rockets win tonight?
Yeah, I just think there's something slightly off with this team, with the Warriors.
You think the Rockets are going to take the series, Nuno?
Yes.
Really, Max? Really? It's you and Max Kellerman.
And not because they're hungrier. It just feels like there's something, just feels like there's something wrong with the Warriors.
Is he going to bet his ass on it?
You going to bet your ass on it?
No.
Come on.
Wow.
Of course not.
Why?
Like, what would that entail? Like, what would happen to me?
We'll
if
hit
I'm
the
wrong?
sounder and something will play.
Yeah, but what happens to me if I'm wrong?
We just like hitting the sounder. That's really it.
That's a good question.
Ahead.
What happens to him? All right, okay, dude, bet his ass on it. Go, he just did it. I bet my ass on it. You bet your ass on the Rockets. Now,
There's some gefilte fish in the corner.
Yeah, you eat the gefilte fish.
No.
Okay, I'll give you you want a multiple choice. If the Warriors win tonight, option A, you eat the gefilte fish, not the whole jar. You just need to eat some of it. Hey, guests today have joined me on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. Option A, you take a big hunk of the gefilte fish out and bite it. Option B, you do 50 air squats. Option C, we fight.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.